Hello folks, it is time for some more hobby nightmares. Hope you're having a wonderful day and things are going well wherever you are in the world. Let's jump in with an update from Coffee Dog, who was here last time talking to us about his trials and tribulations in the hobby. And then we'll get into a bit of a longer hobby nightmare after that. Looking forward to hobby rants tomorrow, 40k rants, where we're going to be talking about why I left 40k last year and if anything's changed since. It kind of has, but I'll get into that tomorrow because we're doing these yearly updates, which I think is really, really cool because you can see how my opinion changes as time goes on. I can also smell chicken cooking. Now, there is such a homely smell about chicken cooking. Like, did you guys get that? Like, is it just me? I don't know. Quick drink of tea. Before we start, I don't know, whenever I smell chicken cooking, I go back to my childhood. Just plain chicken, just this roast chicken in the oven. The smell of it goes throughout the house, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so hungry. Anyway, moving on. Coffee Dog says, hello, great sage of the Northern Realms. Hello. Coffee Dog here again. This is less of a nightmare situation and more of a hobby update from my last one. To start, I would like to thank you for reading my previous submissions. Whether writing about the young lady experiencing a seizure in the game store or shoplifters stealing Magic the Gathering cards, I have tried to give you material that is atypical for your channel. Yeah, and I felt like reading this update was a good thing to do because you give me so many hobby nightmares, so here we go. Some of the stories you have read over the years have been very intense. Your insights, while not often applicable to me, ring true with good sense. I will say again that you are doing good for the community. Thank you, man. Now for the update. My son, let's call him Jim for anonymity's sake, has completed his active service in the United States Marine Corps and has moved back in with me, my wife, and my younger son. I'm happy to give Jim the time to figure out his new path forwards. To complicate matters, whilst Jim was overseas in the Philippines, he managed to impregnate a woman. Of course he did. I'm saying, listen, if my son came back from the Philippines, or Thailand, or somewhere like that, where he's been a Marine, he's jacked, do you know what I mean? Probably a good-looking lad, and he's not impregnated somebody, I'd be surprised. Dude, okay, guys. Bear with me here, okay? On the off chance, I know it's a very low chance, right? But on the off chance, we have any ladies from Southeast Asia in the chat, or in the comment section. Please back me up here. There's a white fetish. There's a white dude fetish. It just is, man. Like you just, like, it's literally, and it's not about money either. Some of it is, definitely, when you see the old men go over there and get with women, but, like, nah, dude. Like the amount of times, even when I was living in London, so, like, the girl I was with when I was down there was half Filipino. And, like, she was like, I'm not taking you to any family gatherings for a bit, sorry. And I said, why? She said, because you're white and you're tall and you have a jawline and, and I was like, yeah, but they're all, she was like, yeah, the women there will be all over you. And she's like, I'm not trying to bloat your ego. They would be over, a white UK 6 out of 10 dude is like a 10 out of 10. It's that much of a thing. Do you know what I mean? So she was like, look, I'm not taking you because it's just going to be real uncomfortable for me because, it's going to be a lot of... Because they don't care. They will steal your man. They don't care. They're like, yeah, that's a nice looking white dude. That's mine now. That kind of a thing. She's like, I know you're not going to do anything. I just would get really uncomfortable, And I said, well, this is atypical. She said, yep. Yep. Southeast Asian families. Yep, that is atypical. Yeah, you will be getting flirted with, you will be getting looks, you'll be getting pats on the leg, that kind of thing, and that's not something I want to be around. And I was like, yeah, fine, okay, that's how it is, that's fine. She said that in front of her mother, and her mother was nodding along. She's a Filipino woman, nodding along, yes, dear, yes, yep. So, it happens. It happens is what I'm saying. You can't expect a young man who's in the Marines, hopped up on testosterone, and obviously is quite chiseled because he's made himself into a Marine, to go to the Southeast Asia and not have several girlfriends, man. It's just happening. A lot of you might think that's controversial. Don't. Don't. If you have anyone from the Philippines in your life or anyone from Southeast Asia, ask them. Ask them. They will tell you, right? Mostly women, they will tell you. They're like, yeah, definitely. Like if I saw like a nicely dressed white dude in Philippines, there's a queue forming, and it's not for the money. It just, I don't know. It just seems to be there. Anyway, moving on. So what I'm saying is, don't be too harsh on this young man. He intends to visit her in time for the birth and wants to bring her stateside eventually. Well, good for him. That was my next question, right? My only judgment would be if he just left, right? That would be my next thing, yeah? Good for him. Absolutely. What a good young man you've brought up there, my friend. Well done. I suspect he has deliberately bypassed the currently hostile dating environment with American women. Jim appears white despite being 1/4 Japanese. He stands about 5'4" tall. Despite being honest, hard-working and kind, Jim is at the bottom of the dating hierarchy due to these factors that are out of his control. I can't blame him and hope things work out for him and the young woman. Soon I will be a grandpa. Well, here's the thing, and this is how that just proves my point, right? He's 1/4 Japanese, he's 5'4", and he's still banging. He's still over there banging. Slinging it, man. So he's not as much of a Chad-looking dude as I had in my head, but he's still over there, absolutely crushing it. So yeah, lads, if you are single and you got the money and you want to have a holiday somewhere, meet somebody, that's the place to go. That's the place to go. I mean, a lot of the guys I know are into jobs and stuff, like not into jobs, but they have their own businesses. They're really stressed out, and they hardly have the time for anything, right? If you want to go somewhere where you find a woman who says, "Just take care of me financially and put me in a house somewhere, and I will do everything else," like that's the place you go. You go to Southeast Asia, right? You will find one, and she will be hot as well, right? I now have 3 friends who've come back from that. They go on a holiday once and they get snapped up, like literally snapped up by the hottest woman they can find. Who literally comes home, is no stress, is funny, they're getting along like a house on fire, and so one of my friend's wives, she's called Mari, right? And she came back and she's Filipino, and she doesn't get the vitriol that she gets from white girls over here. Like, she just, because she says to them, well, you don't want them, so we'll take them. We don't care. They're gorgeous. We'll take them. Thank you. Right? And she just doesn't get the bitterness that towards passport bros and things. It's not that way inclined. He met somebody that he really liked. And I think it's coming on. There are definitely people who do it just for a passport, don't get me wrong. And there are definitely rich old men who go over there, who or even where men with a nice pension go over there to have their fun. Yeah, that happens. But a lot of the young lads that go over there, they just meet somebody because they are very high market value on the dating marketplace over there, and so the hotter women find them attractive, and they're not used to getting attention from really attractive women, and so they're like, wow, and they fall in love very, very quickly, and things, most of the time, things work out. There are certain occasions where, yes, bringing a woman like that over here has ended miserably for the guy, don't get me wrong, but the 3 that I know, and I know 3, that's incredible, I know 1, maybe 2, well, we met them at the same time, so I know 1 through my previous relationship, but, knowing 3 of them, dude, they're all happy. And they're all doing really well. They're all having kids. They're doing their own, all 9 yards. It's what it is. So, as I said, Coffee Dog, your lad doesn't fit the Chad, stereotype, but still managed to go over there and bag himself a hottie. Just say, Anyway, with Jim back in the house, I am very much a hobby dad. We have a long family history of nerdiness. My grandfather was into toy soldiers and dinosaurs over a century ago. I imagine something like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World or Jules Verne's Journey to the Centre of the Earth being in his head as he played with his miniatures. My dad read many science fiction greats like Heinlein and Clarke. Perhaps there is a genetic factor here. It seems to come back to the nature versus nurture debate. Regardless, I delight in being a hobby dad. Jim and I have been spending hours in my hobby room building and painting miniatures. In some ways, it's like we have stepped back 5 years in time. I will often put one of your videos on to the soundtrack to our hobby time. Okay, well, hopefully he hasn't heard me just saying, well, he's not Chad looking, but you know. Oh, God. Jim and I will often reminisce about various standout moments from past 40k games, like the time a lucky shot from Jim's Chaos Space Marine Predator shot down my fully loaded Blood Angel Stormraven. Chief Librarian Mephiston and a veteran sergeant were the only survivors. We imagine Mephiston using telekinesis to push his way out of the burning wreckage. He then made an 11-inch charge and gutted a full squad of Chaos Chosen Marines. There was also the time Jim's Dark Angel Librarian charged in on a Chaos Champion who had been noticed by the Dark Gods and was uplifted to Demon Prince status. I can only imagine the look on the Librarian's face as his foe hulks out in front of him. At some point, I'm sure we will play. We just need to decide what game system. I have dropped a few hints at wanting to play, but Jim won't make a decision. I don't want to apply any pressure, so I don't want to create any pushback. For now, I'm happy to build and paint. What I have gained is hope that there will be gaming in my future. As always, thank you for taking the time to read this, Coffee Dog. Okay, well, the thing is, man, you're giving Jim time to get his life in order and get things sorted out, so I think you're well within your right to say, listen, I'd like to play a few games. Call it your rent. That's what I'd do. Call it your rent. You have to play 40k with me once a week. That's your rent for now. Right? Or a part of your rent. Fine. It's a joke, right? But it also reaffirms the thing of, listen, I'm letting you stay here free of charge. You know, at least you can do is spend some time with your old man, doing some gaming, right? That's what I'd do. I'd say that. Look, you know, we're not charging you very much for rent, or we're not charging rent at all. Just play a few games of 40k with me. We'll call that your rent. No problem, right? We'll have some fun. Father and son. But yeah, you're in a really good situation there, man. And congratulations to you for being a grandfather, and congratulations to you for sticking by your lad and not getting upset with him and not getting annoyed with him. Things like this happen in life, right? Happen to me, you know. You make mistakes, they happen, and it looks like he's doing the right thing by his girl if he is staying with her. And you know, you brought up a good one. That's all I can say if he's doing that. So well done to him. Anyway. This next one's from Eric. Alright. Dear sir, please call me Eric, and this is my story. I hope you like it. Oh, so do I. Having listened to your frustrations about shoplifters and your old manager's responses to how to tackle this problem, that is, don't approach them as the stolen models aren't really worth it in Games Workshop's opinion, I thought of writing about how I dealt with a shoplifter whilst the manager of Chester, Games Workshop, back in the 1990s. Wow. Okay, cool, man. Excellent. Okay. Wrong shop, wrong times. This is the Games Workshop manager of Chester back in the 1990s. If you were there at the time, you probably know this man. So hopefully, this hobby nightmare is good. First, I need to explain that my first job after school and during college was with a retail store in Glasgow, standing in front of the door to welcome every woman looking for what they want. Some of the older listeners may get the reference. Part of this role was to assist security to apprehend shoplifters, and over time, I developed an attitude to shoplifters that I carry to this day. I don't like them very much. I managed several shops within my time at Games Workshop, and I took great pride in having ownership of these stores, but this one occasion still makes me smile as I became the nightmare for a shoplifter who had the audacity to try and steal from my store. I'd been working in the back room, doing an order or paperwork, something like that, when a staff member alerted me to a possible shoplifter present in the shop. I had fortunately been training my staff the previous Saturday on how to deal with shoplifters, so he gave me a quick rundown of what had been observed. Dude, well done for you for using your Saturday training time like an actual training, not just massaging your own ego. So well done to for teaching actual skills. A man in his early 20s had entered the shop, wearing a jacket against the earlier rain, with a backpack behind him and folders and writing pads in his arms. The staff had approached him to welcome him, but he said he was just looking around, and the shop was quite busy. They had left him to peruse models, etc., while they ran out and to do intro games or served at the till. However, they kept an eye on him and noticed something strange, that the codexes and army books he looked at seemed to disappear when he thought the staff weren't looking. As the shop became quieter, they decided to alert me to the suspicion the customer might be up to no good. I came out of the back a moment later, after the staff member, who was just told to act as if he was busy with something and not to stare at the customer, and I immediately noticed the man, looking around to check on the positions of the staff. I had loudly shouted out I was going out for lunch, and innocently walked past the man, glancing at what was in his arms, and saw several books from the shelves hidden in the folders that he was carrying. I walked out of the shop, immediately came back in, and shouted I'd forgotten to take my money, and gave the nod to my 2 staff members that they were correct. He was a thieving git. As the man moved closer to the shop door, he was unaware that we 3 were circling him like sharks, ready to strike. He went to walk out of the door. Let's meet the staff, shall we? As he walked quickly away from the store, my trained staff moved as one. I touched the guy's right elbow and said, excuse me. I knew I had my 2 staff members behind me to back me up. The guy froze for a second, turned, and was confronted by Will. 30-something, 6'4" over 2 meters, a gentle giant who didn't look as if he remembered what gentle meant, standing beside Mike, a whippet-thin young man with a face that life had beaten all his life, and life had had the bloody knuckles to prove it, and myself, a skinhead, angry Scotsman speaking a guttural language that let him know I wasn't a happy bunny. He bolted. I grabbed the sleeve of his jacket, only to have him wriggle free of the jacket, discarding the folders and writing pads and dropping his backpack. I turned to Mike and Will, shouting for one to gather the things off the pavement and the other to return to the shop and phone the police. And then the red mist came down. How dare he enter my store and think he could get away with stealing stock? I let out a shout using my best Glaswegian brogue voice. Stop, thief, stop! Striking a dramatic pose whilst pointing a finger at the miscreant. The street seemed to stop dead, and everybody looked at me in my ridiculous pose, then at the fleeing rapscallion who looked around at me incredulously, then everything went back to normal. I, however, had a terrible thought. He had to pay for this somehow. Take a sip of tea, sorry. I began to jog after him as he resumed his frantic just imagining a rather portly Games Workshop Glaswegian as a manager just jogging like a pimp towards this shoplifter. I began to jog after him as he resumed his frantic sprint to escape the mad Scot behind him. I followed him for a few moments, stopped, and like the cupboard monkey in Family Guy, pointed accusingly at him and started bellowing again, "Stop, thief, stop!" This is like a D&D. This is like a D&D story. I then resumed my relaxing jog after him. Noticing he was quickly tiring. But as soon as he stopped and looked around to see if I was still following, I bellowed the same thing again and struck my pose. This is kind of terrifying. It's like a relentless force, right? Coming out, like, there's this one monster that I created for one of the D&D things I was writing a while ago. Not D&D, it's like a role-playing campaign. Anyway, it's called a visitor, and if it walks towards you at a very quick speed and is extremely deadly and has really sallow skin and long like claws and really big teeth and things. And it's like 7 foot tall, and it's like the angels from Doctor Who, right? It can only follow you if you're not looking at it, because if you're looking at it, you're affirming that it's in this reality when it shouldn't be, so it can't move, essentially, that kind of a thing. But it's just relentless, and it never stops. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. It's extremely hard to damage and things. Your actions here are like a human version of that. It's like you've stepped out of a dimension. Stop, thief, stop! And then the guy just runs on, and he turns around. You're getting slowly closer every time. And off he went again through the streets of Chester. However, he was visibly slowing now, and I was starting to gain on him. I Told you. I reach a point about 10 feet from him and slowed to match him, not really wanting to get too close. By now we were several streets away from the shop. He darted around a corner, and as I turned round it, saw his predicament. In front of him was a canal. Yes, there are many in Chester. Yes. In front of him was a canal. To his left, the pavement banking ran along, with sightseers walking towards us, while to his right was a walk bridge across the canal. However, he must have realised I could easily catch him before he reached it. I took this moment of indecision to once again strike my pose and bellow, "Stop, thief, stop." I don't know why I find this so funny. It's a fact that you could have caught him like 3 times, and you've decided, like, if this hobby nightmare wasn't real, you'd have caught the guy and just been, "I'm the hero of the hour," sort of a thing. The fact that you could have caught him, you just, because you know you might get into a fight and you don't want to, you just keep striking that pose of pointing at him. "Stop, thief, stop." He must have. It's like a stalemate, right? He's not stopping, and you can't do anything to stop him. So it's like it's just you're never getting any. You know what I mean? It's just brilliant. He must have panicked, and he suddenly raced to the canal edge, and didn't stop. I swear he must have travelled about 6 feet 2 meters before gravity had to put down its well-earned cup of tea and get to work. And gravity wasn't happy at being interrupted from its break. The guy was moving horizontally, then suddenly he disappeared into the brown sludge that was embarrassed to call itself water. He surfaced and looked around to see if I had followed, but I shouted to him a bit gentler to swing back to me and I would help him out. However, he decided to swim to the far bank. I took a leisurely stroll to walk the bridge and cross to the other side, and stopped when I got to him as he clung, exhausted, to the edge of the paved bank, still covered in horrible water. I began to feel sorry for him, to be honest. Exhausted, wet, cold, and covered in brown something from his experience in the canal. After a few moments to allow him to catch his breath, and having me quietly talk to him and offer help, I held up my hand and helped him out. And he reached out and grabbed it. As soon as I pulled him up to the bank, half in and half out, he stupidly kicked in with him? What? Right, he stupidly kicked out with me helping him. I felt him begin to pull me, hoping to pull me into the water. The cheeky bastard! The cheeky bastard! I did the only thing possible when you meet this level of stupidity. I let him go. And gravity was eagerly waiting to immerse him fully once again. He surfaced halfway across the canal, striking out pathetically for the opposite bank, back to our original entry point. I again leisurely jogged over the bridge in time to see him stumble into a back lane of some shops further along the bank. I walked up to the entrance to see something half human, half beast, holding a rock, crouching over with eyes of desperation locked on mine. Though there was no pity in my heart, I reckon this nightmare was getting a bit too much, so I wagged my finger disapprovingly at him and jogged away back to the store. This is the most Games Workshop manager thing I think I've ever read in my life. Like, it really is. Like, my old manager, right? If a cyclist was cycling on the pavement, he would walk into them. Like, literally, I'd be walking next to him, going back to the train station after our shift, and he would literally walk into them. You shouldn't be riding on the pavement. Like, that was like, what are you doing? Just let him run. What are you doing, man? He's like, well, he should know. It's like, dude, that is like such a Games Workshop manager thing to do. You know? Like, no, there's principles and he's crossed the line. You know, like, You were totally... Listen, Eric, you were totally within your rights to do what you did. You didn't cross any lines, but this is really funny. Like, this is literally just like GW. Like, it's not... Again, you're told what not to do, and this is it. Like, don't do this. But, like, the attitude of some Games Workshop managers when it comes to, like, the ownership of their store and the area around it, like, don't mess with me. Like, this is... Yeah. Anyway. I returned to the store just as the rain started to fall again. Mike and Will let me know the police had arrived, taken a statement, and left the guy's jacket, etc., as they didn't need to take it. Will let me know I'd been gone nearly an hour, so he had returned around 5 40k codexes and 3 fantasy army lists to the shelf, all undamaged. Emptying the backpack, we found some sandwiches, which Skinny Mike ate, no point letting them go to waste. So, dude, that's, again, typical hobbyist behaviour, you don't know what's in them sandwiches. And some pieces of paper with unrecognisable scribbles and a shopping list of Games Workshop books that included those he was stealing. In his jacket, we found his return tickets to Liverpool and an out-of-date bus ticket. The jacket was donated to the charity shop the next day, his folders were empty, which Will put in the office for filing purposes, and the writing pads had rambling thoughts scribbled down, detailing an SAS-type plan to steal from Games Workshop stores around Liverpool, with Chester as the first, followed by Warrington. The backpack went to a young gamer who used it for school. And one of the villain of our story, yeah, he seems like a mastermind, he's got us all planned out. The police came back the next day to update us on what had happened later. A call came through from staff at Chester Station, informing police that a man was observed wandering over the tracks just outside the platforms in the pouring rain, desperately trying to access the platform and get on a train without paying. He was arrested for trespassing, and the police mentioned he was in a sorry state and continually mumbling, sorry, I'm sorry. Did we know anything about this? 3 innocent faces looked back as I said, no, haven't a clue. Was I sorry? No. As I said at the beginning, I have a strong dislike for shoplifters, and no qualms about dealing with them, though on reflection perhaps it would have been easier to let the guy go, as we had managed to get the books back after all. But yes, I would do it again, and did carry on stopping thieves after this, but not to this disagreement or nightmarish levels of hell. Hope you liked the story, even if you don't feel it can be read out, or perhaps I went too far. If you like, I can write in again with more positive tales or other nightmares from the olden days, when Games Workshop was growing and was akin to the Wild West at the times. All the best, Eric. Dude, send me in some more stuff. You write really well. That was really fun. I really liked that. That was cool. And I don't think you went too far. She'll write to, admonish and pursue shoplifters. I wouldn't do it, because I didn't care enough about my stock. But, all the principle of the thing. I'm like, you know what, I care less about the principle of the thing than I do getting stabbed for Warhammer. There are some things in life I would happily get stabbed for, right? My missus, my daughter, right? No problem. No problem there at all. A codex, a Space Marine codex, or codex, no. Nah. You can take those. Bye-bye. No. Carrying on with my life. Not gonna get involved, But again, certain Games Workshop managers, man, they, like, working for GW is their life, and you don't screw with that. There's one place I wouldn't, just on the off chance, I wouldn't select to rob, to be on the rob in, and that's a Games Workshop store, because you never know what kind of manager you're going to come across. It could be a guy like this. Anyway, I love you a long time. I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more 40k rantage, and then on Friday for some more hobby nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.